Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. Today I'm finally going to explain how I did this finish. So I came out with the video on this Burnt Finish Telecaster a long time ago, and I told you guys at that point that I would explain how I did the finish on it in another video. Well, that time has finally come. So today what I'm going to do is drop back into that same footage. I'm going to go into voiceover and I'm going to explain what I did. We'll talk about what we started with, what we did to get this look, and of course the sheen that we have on here that has that cool kind of satiny, oldish look about it. And yeah, I'll cover all the products that I used, and you guys can maybe do this for yourselves if you're very careful. So let's drop into that footage. I'll get my voiceover mic out and we can get started on this. Okay, getting right into it here. What we start with is our burst finish, which I did using Bellen's guitar finishing kit. It's done exclusively with spray cans. They're all nitrocellulose lacquer, and I've got a series out on how I did that. So I will post a card so that you can click on that if you want to see it. Then I lit the thing on fire. This, probably not the greatest idea. Do it outside if you're going to do it. Wear a mask. I did this for effect. It was silly. But anyway, what I used to light it on fire was lacquer thinner. Lacquer thinner obviously dissolves lacquer, but also it's very flammable. Be careful. What I'm left with after that is this finish that is partially burned away. I've got kind of the remnants of some lacquer finish on the outside, some char marks, and a lot of soot on here that I essentially need to scrape off because it's stuck on there like melted paint would be, right? So you just scrape it off. I'm not worried about damaging anything because I just lit it on fire, obviously. So no real concerns there. I just go in with a flexible putty knife and scrape carefully. Try not to make any gouges, of course, because you want to have a smooth finish when all said and done, or at least relatively. And I'm left with this. Now this is essentially my finished product as far as color goes. You could conceivably come over this with some amber after if you wanted to, but it's really not necessary. A lot of the paint did stay on the back of this guitar because I doused and lit the front. So what I did for that was scrape a little bit off and then come in with a blowtorch and just give it a good burn on the back to give it a slightly more even look than what we've got on the front. The idea being that if this thing was in, for example, a fire and resting on its back, the back would develop a burn more like that, whereas the front would come right off. Here I've got some of Bellen's stringed instrument lacquer from a quart. You can of course do this with a spray can as well. And I'm putting a couple coats on to seal all of this in, make sure that none of the soot and stuff comes off again, and to give me the foundation for a finish on top that's going to have a nice sheen to it as opposed to that weird burnt feel that's open and, you know, can get oil and moisture in it and stuff like that. So I'm sealing this up. I'm using Bellen's stringed instrument lacquer. You can definitely use a spray can for this. The issue here is this stuff is glossy. So especially when you put on a nice coat like I'm getting out of this is my Warwick 904H. If you want to check one of those out, the link is in the description for that. And the Amazon link in the description allows you access to, of course, the Bellen products, which are available through there. But what I end up with here is this glossy finish that looks, frankly, absolutely ridiculous with the burn. But that's what I'm going for right now because seeing that gloss on there allows me to know that everything's nicely sealed up and it's just a gloss product. You can get matte lacquers, but for this it's very straightforward to just go ahead and put on that gloss, make sure everything looks like it's sealed properly. You can tell by the fact that it glosses out, and then I'm going to show you how to come in after and change all of this so that you get that beautiful satin look and that nice feel that you end up with from a satin finish like the one that I've done on this guitar. The gloss also allows us to create a little bit of extra accenting to you can see that you get more contrast, so it accents all of the contrast in the colors and everything, gives you that really rich color. Now we're going to tone that back a little bit when we remove the gloss aspect of this, but at the same time it's interesting to be able to see any, you know, extra issues with the colors that are on here as you're clear coating it, because there may be a circumstance in which you want to change something, you want to go in with an airbrush or something like that and make a modification to it. I end up doing, I believe, 4 coats of this because it's such a porous surface from that burning. The harder you burn it, the more porous it's going to be. So the 4 coats seal that up nicely, and I'm on to the stage where I remove the wax. I'm doing this using some 4-0 steel wool, very fine. I think it's the finest steel wool that I was able to find, which is, you know, exactly what you need for this. You don't want to scratch the heck out of your surface, out of your paint. There's no need for that. This will take the gloss off and give us a nice, beautiful, smooth finish that you can run your hand over and not feel any imperfections. The product that I'm using with it is simply paste finishing wax from Minwax. You can also use other waxes. For example, the Blue Label paste wax from Bellin works really well for this. But this paste finishing wax is perfectly adequate, and what it does is I could polish a matte finish up to a satin finish using this method. So it'll take me in that direction, but it'll also take me down from a gloss to a satin finish, which is what I'm doing in this case. Now you may be thinking, what are you doing with the torch again? Why are you burning this again? Well, I'm not. This is actually just kind of me being dramatic and using the torch because I had it handy, but a heat gun would be not only adequate in this case, but probably more logical. What I'm doing is heating up the wax so that it melts a little bit and kind of flows out a bit, and then I can go in with the shop towel and buff it more easily and have it soak into any open areas in the finish that are left and end up with the beautiful finish that we've got here. So in most cases, I like to heat up my wax when I'm doing a wax finish for, well, all of the aforementioned reasons. It soaks in, it makes it easier to smooth out and polish, and you end up with this really nice satin sheen from it. Feels really nice to the hand, to the touch, and I think it looks pretty damn good. Another cool thing about this finish is that although it provides that really beautifully smooth uniform sheen and it feels smooth, you still get that kind of topography to it, if you will. The waves, not so much texture as kind of a feeling of different shapes that are taking place underneath it from the layers of paint and the burning that have occurred underneath. So it gives it a real character when you feel it, not just when you see it, which is a really interesting effect when you play and hold this guitar. Now there's really not a lot to tell you about the rest of it. I've got just a simple Wilkinson Telecaster bridge that doesn't cover up the area around the pickup cavity to be able to show off more of this finish, and I'm wiring in some very old pickups. I actually had a funny moment during this exact part where someone said, make sure you protect the face of your guitar lest you drop solder on it and create a burn mark, which I thought was of course quite hilarious. I'm still not sure if they were joking or not, but for some reason I'm not all that concerned about creating a burn mark on the surface of this particular guitar. So this is what we end up with at the end. I am quite pleased with it. I hope you guys liked it, and I hope you enjoyed the video and hopefully found this helpful. I just said hope way more times than necessary, so I'm going to leave it there. If you guys did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up so it is easier for other people to find, and subscribe if you haven't already so that you can check out all the cool stuff that we have coming out. Thanks again, and I will see you next time.